Everything you're seeing on screen right now is not a random news feed. This is not chaos. This is not a mistake. This is a perfectly planned geopolitical operation unfolding right before your eyes. Its goal is nothing less than a reboot of the world order, the erasure of old rules, and the drawing of a new world map. A map where powers that seem unshakable today might find no place tomorrow. We're used to looking at events in isolation. Trump wants to buy Greenland. What an eccentricity. Somalia loses protection. Well, I guess it's necessary. Israel gets more money. Nothing new. That is a fatal mistake, because in the great game, where the stakes are continents, economic corridors, and vectors of influence, there are no isolated moves. Today, we will assemble this puzzle. We will connect three seemingly unrelated dots on the map: the icy shield of Greenland, the hot sands of Somalia, and the fortified heights of the Golan. And when we connect them, a brand new geopolitical reality will appear before us. A reality in which the 45th U.S. President's administration acts not as a fire brigade putting out crises, but as a cold, calculating architect of the future. Ready to see the hidden logic of power? Then watch until the end, because after this video, you will never look at world news the same way again. Let's go.
Let's start with what seems the most absurd. Greenland, the planet's largest island, an icy desert home to fewer than 60,000 people. In August 2019, Donald Trump first publicly floated the idea: the United States should buy Greenland. The world laughed. The media mocked. Denmark, which administers the island, responded with a firm and almost insulting never. A failure, it seemed. But was it? To understand the essence of this move, you must see not the land, but the position. Look at the map. Greenland is a giant aircraft carrier, frozen solid in the strategic center of the Northern Hemisphere. It is the key to the Arctic, and the Arctic is the main prize of the 21st century. Why? First, resources. According to U.S. Geological Survey estimates, up to 30% of the world's undiscovered gas and 13% of its oil lie north of the Arctic Circle. That's trillions of dollars at today's prices, but that's not even the main point. Second, and this is critical, roots. Global warming is not just a catastrophe. For geopolitics, it is a window of opportunity. The ice is melting, and by the 2030s, 2040s, the Northern Sea Route along Russia and the Northwest Passage past Canada and Greenland will become navigable year-round. What does this mean? Take the route from Shanghai to Rotterdam. Via the Suez Canal, 21,000 kilometers and 35 to 40 days of travel. Via the Northern Sea Route, 13,000 kilometers and 20 to 23 days. Time saved, 40%. Fuel saved, hundreds of thousands of tons. Control over this route is control over the pulse of global trade between Asia and Europe. Now ask yourself, who is the main player in the Arctic today? Russia. It has the most powerful icebreaker fleet and is actively militarizing its coast. Who is the main economic competitor of the United States, whose goods flow to Europe? China. Its Belt and Road Initiative includes Arctic projects, the Polar Silk Road. Trump's offer to buy Greenland is not about land. It is a piercing shot across the bows of Moscow and Beijing. It is an attempt to place an impassable barrier on their most promising future route, to create a zone of absolute American control from which to dictate terms. It is the desire to move the front line of future competition to its own maximally advantageous territory. This is why NATO's reaction was instantaneous. Reinforcements, exercises. This is not about defending Denmark. This is preparation for the confrontation over the Arctic, which is already underway in the silence of government offices. But to throw all strength and resources into a new Arctic front, you must secure the old chronic wounds. You must free up funds. You must eliminate threats at your back. And here we move to the second point on our map: Somalia, a country forever associated in the American consciousness with failure, chaos, and loss. Since 1991, after the collapse of the central government, anarchy, terror from the Al-Shabaab group, and poverty have reigned here. Thousands of Somalis have lived in the U.S. for decades under Temporary Protected Status, TPS. This status, renewed by administration after administration, allowed them to stay and work legally. Until April 2024. That's when the Trump administration declares temporary means temporary and terminates TPS for thousands of Somalis. They are given until 2025, after which, deportation. Humanitarian organizations are horrified. They speak of tragedy, of families torn apart. And they are right. On the level of human destinies, this is a catastrophe. But on the level of geopolitical mechanics, this is a ruthless, surgical operation. Let's do the math. First, economics. According to reports, supporting one refugee receiving benefits and social services costs the U.S. budget approximately $15,000 to $20,000 per year. Multiply by thousands of people. The result is hundreds of millions, and in perspective, billions of dollars in savings. Where will this money go? Partly to tax cuts, important for domestic politics. But a significant portion can be redirected to infrastructure funds. Funds that can, for example, build ports, airfields, and research stations. Where? That's right, in Greenland. This is not speculation. This is classic resource reallocation from the periphery to the main thrust line. Second, and far more important, security and signaling. Somalia is not just a country, it is a symbol of failed American intervention. It is an open, bleeding wound in the strategically vital Horn of Africa region, at the entrance to the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. And this wound is a potential channel of instability. Migrants, among whom there may be radical elements, are an internal security threat. Al-Shabaab, linked to Al-Qaeda, is an external threat. Terminating TPS is a tough sanitary measure. It is a move to stitch up this old wound, to minimize the risks emanating from it. It is a cleansing of the rear before a major campaign. But even more important is the signal to the whole world, a crystal clear signal. American protection, American guarantees are not an eternal, unconditional good. They are a tool that is applied when it benefits the U.S. and switched off when it ceases to be beneficial. This signal is being read in Afghanistan, Iraq, Ukraine, Taiwan. It changes the very basis of international relations, returning them to an era of hard, transactional realism. Having secured the rear and freed up resources, the architect of the new map must secure for himself an unshakable bridgehead, a supporting fortress, the point from which he will push off to make his next move. And he has such a point.
Israel. It would seem everything is predictable here. The U.S. is the main ally. Annual aid of $3.8 billion is a sacred cow of American foreign policy. But in April 2024 comes the news. The Trump administration approves an emergency military aid package worth $4 billion, above and beyond the plan, amidst escalation on the border with Gaza. Just supporting an old friend in a tough time? Too simple. To understand the true scale of this step, you must forget the rhetoric about the only democracy in the Middle East. You must look at the map with military, strategic, and economic eyes. Israel, for the U.S., is not just an ally. It is an absolutely reliable, self-sufficient, high-tech military outpost in the very heart of the world's most unstable region. Essentially, an unsinkable U.S. aircraft carrier on land. It solves several strategic tasks at once: containing Iran, the main regional adversary, controlling the eastern Mediterranean, home to giant natural gas reserves being contested, Turkey, Egypt, Cyprus,
a testing ground for the latest military technologies, which later go to the American Army. An extra $4 billion at a moment of tension is not aid. It is reinforcement of an already powerful insurance policy. It is a guarantee that while the U.S. is engaged in a massive project in the Arctic, its key bridgehead in the Middle East will be absolutely stable, protected, and loyal. Moreover, it will be capable of independently containing any threats without requiring the diversion of American carrier groups or ground forces. This is the purchase of strategic peace of mind, an investment in having one but quiet and reliable border in the Middle East, while the game for the future is played in the north. In this logic, Israel becomes the rear base, the impregnable fortress from which one can calmly plan expansion in new directions. And now, having examined all 3 points separately, let's take the final, decisive step. Let's connect them into a single strategic line.